name's Gillian Howarth and I'm Resourcing Development Manager for John Lewis Partnership. So my team look after the assessment and selection methodology that we use across the partnership. Our key aim really was to increase the diversity of our candidate population. Thereafter, we wanted to increase the percentage of internal partners who were securing places on our graduate schemes. We wanted to really improve the calibre of candidates who were reaching the assessment stage. We also had some key measures in terms of reducing time and also reducing cost as a result of that. And then finally we had to develop some new attraction techniques and also selection tools to make this happen. For our graduate scheme, our candidates first of all have a look at a realistic job preview, and that has a really important part to play in them deciding whether this is the right organisation and also the right role for them. They then go through a series of online automated tests. So we start with a value sifting tool, which is really about finding out whether the candidates have the same sort of values as the rest of our partners in our organisation. Thereafter they move to numeracy first. That's really important to us, that candidates understand that data is very important to our organisation and we want to test that first off. They then move through into a verbal ability test or verbal reasoning, into a management judgment indicator, and then finally a couple of years ago we put in some commercial questions. So we wanted to make sure that candidates understood the retail industry and what was going on within our industry. So we asked questions about the rise of the discounters. Currently we ask questions about Brexit and other phenomena. After that, the candidates would then fill out some long answer questions, which is really their first touch point with one of our consultants, because that would be reviewed and scored. And then if they're successful on that, they move through to Sonru, video interviewing, and after that they would be invited to assessment centre. So it's a really lengthy process, but the mix of automation and a couple of other media give us a really strong sift to make sure we're inviting the top candidates and the right candidates to our assessment centres. For the partnership, it was really important that we sort of got a control on our number of applications. We were receiving far more applications than we actually needed, and we knew that from looking at the data from previous years to say how many candidates do we need to get through to the final stages. And what was happening was that we were spending a lot of time, our resourcing consultants were having to spend a lot of time sifting and screening applications manually that could have been dealt with by automation earlier on. So we looked at a funnel, we took the data from the first year and we started to say, what if we increased the pass mark here, what if we lowered the pass mark here, what would happen, and started to extrapolate some results from that. The biggest decision factor for us though was that we would cap application numbers so that we wouldn't just allow people to continue applying to the end date. If we receive enough applications to make it work, we shut down our applications, and WCN can do that automatically for us, which was a great relief. So we did that the next year, and we dramatically decreased the number of applications we were receiving, which meant that we were in far better control. We could actually get to our candidates quicker, we could interact with them more. So it improved their experience, and ultimately it meant that we were running a much more efficient service. So by the time we got to assessment centre, we saved about 700 hours of hiring manager time. We didn't have to run sort of numbers and numbers of assessment centres. We could run a discrete few assessment centres with the right candidates and spend some quality time with them. So how did we go about looking at diversity? So it was one of our key aims, and we knew that we needed to somehow balance being as efficient as possible with being as diverse as possible, and making sure that all groups felt that the partnership was somewhere they wanted to work and that they had as fair an opportunity as possible to get through the process. So we did work with a couple of organisations to do some specific attraction towards groups that we felt were underrepresented when we looked at our numbers. So we worked with organisations to try and increase female representation to technology, for example. And that was really important to us, to have identified that there was a challenge, but to actually have come up with a positive strategy to deal with it. Virtualisation was really important to us because we had not been able to identify a return on investment of the traditional graduate hiring means. So visiting campuses, doing the traditional milk round, we weren't able to find that we were getting the return on investment. What we did know, and we were in a fortunate position, is that we have a really strong employment brand, and we knew that candidates who wanted to work for the partnership would actually seek us out. To supplement that, we took our first steps into social media recruiting using Facebook and Twitter, and we also really started to emphasise our LinkedIn presence. So we have a great LinkedIn strategy which relates to our experienced hires, but we started to use that media for some of our graduate campaigns as well. What we found is that we haven't seen the drop-off in terms of the application numbers apart from where we've capped them, so we are still getting the calibre of the candidates through, and we do feel that the candidates will interact with us in terms of social media as well as they would have done on a campus visit. So it was a conscious decision. It was a little bit scary, a little bit frightening after years and years of milk round and campus activity. But so far we are finding that it hasn't had a detrimental effect to us moving to virtualisation. How has data and the use of psychometrics impacted on our graduate hiring? Very positively. We're in a position now where we are using the last 2 to 3 years' data to help us plan what's likely to happen for future campaigns, and that puts us in so much of a stronger position in terms of workforce planning and also making sure that we're reaching the right candidates. It's been a really, really interesting morning. I've appreciated learning from other organisations what they're doing in the graduate space, but also really interesting discussions in terms of the apprentice piece and what place that's going to have for those of us who work in early careers hiring. For me, WCN has allowed us to have a bank of tests which helps improve our efficiencies, we know is reliable and gives us a really solid set of data that we can use to plan for the future.